The Vietnam War: leadership failures and tactical errors leading to American defeat. The Vietnam War, a protracted conflict that raged from the late 1950s to 1975, stands as one of the most controversial and complex wars in modern history. Rooted in the broader context of the Cold War, the war was driven by the fear of communism spreading throughout Southeast Asia, encapsulated in what became known as the Domino Theory. This theory suggested that if one country fell to communism, neighboring countries would inevitably follow suit. As a result, the United States felt compelled to intervene in Vietnam to prevent the spread of communism, leading to a significant military presence that would ultimately prove disastrous. The origins of the conflict can be traced back to the end of World War II, when Vietnam sought independence from French colonial rule. The struggle for autonomy was led by Ho Chi Minh and his communist forces, who initially received support from various nationalist groups. However, as tensions escalated, Vietnam was divided at the 17th parallel into North Vietnam, backed by communist allies like China and the Soviet Union, and South Vietnam, supported by the United States and other Western nations. Kennedy's administration increased military aid and personnel in response to fears of a communist takeover in South Vietnam. The belief that failure to act could lead to a domino effect across Southeast Asia drove American policy decisions. However, this perspective often overlooked the complex realities on the ground, including the nationalist sentiments among many Vietnamese who were not primarily motivated by communism but rather by a desire for independence from foreign domination. As American troops were deployed in greater numbers, tactical errors and strategic miscalculations became apparent. The US military relied heavily on conventional warfare tactics against an enemy that employed guerrilla warfare strategies. The Viet Cong and North Vietnamese forces were adept at using their knowledge of the terrain to launch surprise attacks, often blending into civilian populations and employing hit-and-run tactics that frustrated American forces. One significant miscalculation was the reliance on overwhelming firepower without considering the political implications of such tactics. Bombing campaigns aimed at crippling North Vietnam's infrastructure often resulted in civilian casualties and destruction of villages, which fueled anti-American sentiment both domestically and internationally. The infamous Tet Offensive in 1968 marked a turning point. Despite being a military failure for North Vietnam, it shocked the American public and eroded support for the war effort back home. Leadership failures also played a critical role in the war's outcome. Presidents Johnson and Kennedy faced immense pressure to demonstrate American resolve against communism but often failed to provide clear objectives or a coherent strategy for achieving them. The lack of effective communication between military leaders and political decision-makers led to confusion and inconsistent policies that undermined efforts on the ground. The war ultimately culminated in a withdrawal of US forces and the fall of Saigon in 1975, resulting in a unified communist Vietnam. The consequences were profound. Not only did it mark a significant defeat for US foreign policy, but it also left lasting scars on Vietnamese society and American veterans alike. The lessons learned from the Vietnam War continue to resonate today as they highlight the dangers of miscalculated interventions based on ideological fears rather than an understanding of local dynamics. As we reflect on this tumultuous chapter in history, it prompts us to consider how leadership decisions shape not only military outcomes but also broader geopolitical landscapes. What other historical conflicts have been influenced by similar dynamics? The exploration of past wars reveals numerous insights waiting to be uncovered,